We
Right.
don't give a damn about you trying to get glam and glitz and PR and money off of this. The people need safety.
Thank
But
you.
didn't happen that way. And now these folk are big heroes because they did it. And the question that you might want to ask yourself is, what did they accomplish? But
Exactly.
you see, those kind of lessons don't match the narrative these days because people are unfamiliar with what's happened over the last half century. So they don't want to hear anybody discuss it. And I'm not talking about don't do something. It's just make sure that what you do is effective. It ain't
Correct.
got nothing to do with being sellout,
Yes.
coon, and like some of these folk talking about coon, they get slapped across the head, turn around and run, and most of them don't have the balls to stand there and do what they want to do. And they've got
Absolutely.
all these Obama types that we had to deal with, that we got in school. We got in the front door. They hadn't invented affirmative action, and we got ways where it wasn't really affirmative action. It was just actualizing some stuff they used to do to get athletes in. And we got a lot of people in, and the first few batches, yeah, man, we're right there. Let's go. The
Right.
next one, brothers, it's not that I don't appreciate what you have done and the sacrifices you have made so that I can be in this institution, but you say I can't afford to jeopardize my career. You'll have to go on without me, but I'll be
Right.
there with you in spirit. And now they sit around, they're either dead or their children are sitting there with the pinky
Yep.
fingers out as they sit in a five-star hotel bar sipping Chablis. Thomas, what do you think's going on? Jamal, I don't know. Earl, what about you?
The judge, that kind of brings me to this point. A lot of people, I have this problem all the time on my channel. I say, listen, we do facts over feelings over here. And the reality is, if you can't measure your accomplishments through your merit, through your hard work, then you're just talking. A lot of it is just talk. And I think one of the biggest disconnects is everyone wants to complain about what today is like. And I say, you couldn't march in the shoes of those 30, 40, 50 years ago. You know, what the challenges then are not the challenges now. How did we, and I know this, I don't want to take us too far off, but, and you said it at the event, you know, you stated that people are today basically trying to speak on things that they never experienced. You know, they're glorifying the Panthers, but couldn't walk in the shoes of the Panthers, based on how they maneuver themselves now today. It's just a lot of talk. How did we get here? How did we start from people being so courageous to
Okay,
now emotional
the
cowards?
the Panther Party came from the Deacons for Defense and Justice out of Louds County, Louisiana. The emblem was developed, and some of them were in the 761st Armored
Mm,
Battalion that was known as Patton's Black Panthers in World War II. They led the Third Army with the longest continuous service without a break in the European War for the U.S. Army. So they've got a lot of heroes. If you want to read about it, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who was a scholar, uh, probably was deep. You know, he liked to do this kind of thing. He wrote a good story. He had an uncle he called Uncle Shorty, who was in the 761st, and he was surprised to discover that his uncle was in that because Uncle never discussed it. Like a lot of those guys then, it was pretty bad.
yeah,
So it is what it is, and that's how you got the Black Panther thing. And the bit was not just the Panther Party; it was a lot of brothers in the Black Student Alliance or black student unions, and they did what they had to do to get it together. And see,
right,
we got taught growing up, you're brave, you're courageous, stop crying, boy, get up and act like a man. Boy, do you want to be a man when you grow up? Son, you better act like a man. Don't have mama coming over there and get you. You ain't got no panties on, boy. You got drawers. What's the matter with you?
right,
Son, you better get up and act like a man. Brush that off, walk
yeah,
that off. And the coaches would, boy, come here. What's the matter with you? You got a problem? All right. go get me one of those ping pong battles, and they'd break them. They'd have a whole stack, and it wasn't any, don't you touch my child.
Right,
Didn't
right.
play that. And see, it took another thing to mess with somebody that you knew had a limp because he got shot in World War II, or he got a bad tear in Korea, or lost an eye in Korea, and he's telling you something and he's faced death. You didn't play with a man like that. And
Right.
see, we had men, black men, white men, Asian men, who were interested in making a man of you. And you had to have your shoes shined, shirts tucked in, belts, and you had to have your hair combed, neat, cleaned, pressed, and none of this slouch stuff and walking around in slides and dressed like you trying to live out of a grocery cart with some lawn bags. And you better act with respect. What would you just say?
Right. Yeah.
They would just say, you better act like a man. It wasn't any man up because it's assumed you're going to do it. You used to be able to go to a church picnic. And if you were looking that way and there are a bunch of kids behind you, you could tell where the girls and boys were because the little boys, they yelled and shouted and the little girls screamed and screeched. Now you go to something and they all sound the same. Little boys screech and squeal and scream. And when you have it described, he screamed as he was, no. And then they had this nonsense. Now you see, they fled in terror as the gunmen opened up. Back then it was the children bravely marched out in good order, to escape the carnage. We had other things going on. It's just this thing of glorification of punking out, which we didn't have. So when you are supposed to be this way, it's like you got an opportunity to make a difference where you live and make it a safer place. Not everybody, but a lot of us did. So we have this group, and we had the generation before us to emulate. And it wasn't you got to be a thug, man, to be all this and that. We had guys like, make a long story short, no relation, Roscoe Brown, Professor Emeritus, New York University, Roscoe Brown, a.k.a. Captain Roscoe Brown of 332nd Airmen, a.k.a. Red Tails, a.k.a. the Tuskegee Airmen. This dude shot down 2 German Messerschmitt ME-262 jets with 430 cal cannons apiece trying to kill him. He killed them, and he killed a lot of folk at 30,000 feet, 400 miles an hour, 70 degrees below zero. And he's a mild-mannered professor, told a lot of jokes, had a lot of knowledge, and he wore a suit and tie. And I remember one time he accompanied me to Abyssinian Baptist Church in Harlem. That's Adam Clayton Powell's old church. And we were down in the basement, and all of the wannabe gangsters were talking this, that, and the other. And I said, there's somebody in here better than anybody walking because he's a stone cold recognized killer.
Yep.
He killed a whole bunch of folk. And they couldn't guess. Finally, I started dropping hints. You mean this dude is a fighter pilot, man? Yeah, that's right. Well, where is he? I said, Professor. And he stood up and waved. That's him? He done killed all them folk? Yes, he has. And he's a professor. So you see, like all warriors who made something to themselves in history, he's got a mind.
Correct.
And you don't mess with somebody like that. Killing somebody ain't no big deal.
Right.
But it's all about principle. And matter of fact, Genghis Khan was known as a brilliant person. Julius Caesar, Mr. Badass, Hail Caesar, we still use the Julian calendar. And most people have heard of Aristotle, the Greek philosopher, a great brain. Well, you've also heard of his most famous pupil, Alexander the Great, who conquered the known world. Now, both of them were kind of gay, but they aren't this kind of gay they have today.
Right.
No big deal. Get your freak on in your bedroom. So, but man up
Man
outside. And
up.
by the way, keep your filthy hands off these children. We don't need to start spreading sexuality around and start trying to groom folk. Adults
Mm,
don't need to sexualize children for anything, straight or whatever.
exactly.
Now, aside from that, you have these people who have this kind of understanding. So you have a teacher here, a
Right.
coach here.
Yep.
He's been shot at. He has been able to go on, and he didn't turn punk and run unless he got told retreat, and that's to withdraw to fight again another day. But you faced the danger, and you did the advancing on the enemy, and you had it in you. So we don't have that because we don't have any men in the schools. We
That's
have a
very
lot
true.
of fine ladies,
That's
but they
very
have all the jewelry and the hoop bracelets, and they're going itsy bitsy spider and all this crap, which is totally out of touch with the boys they have who don't have manhood in their lives. And nobody's telling them every 15, 20 seconds, act like a man, boy. Your
right.
mama's telling you, act like a man. Your grandmama, your aunts, your uncles, your daddy, and the next, boy, you better act like a man. What's wrong with you? I identify with a parent. I think of my
Mhm.
old man. I don't think of my mama. My mama
Right.
was helpful, but nowadays you guys think of your mamas, not your daddies.
Right.
See, when I
Mhm.
grew up, the men talked about the daddies. The mama was there, but now it's like, man, what is this thing? These guys don't even recognize their dads. And then when I got to get into it, I said, oh, wow, that's really tragic. So, not to depreciate women, it's just what happened to the masculine component. And that was because we are the victims.
Yes.
And that way, I would say victims because our mothers were induced to try to destroy the masculine componentry that was supposed to go in your head. See,
Correct.
we kill anything on this planet. The tiger used to be king of the jungle, not now. He's endangered, and only you can save him. Send $19 a month to the
Right.
World Wildlife Fund. The elephant, the magnificent, mighty elephant. He's in danger. Send
Yep.
$19.95 a month. Oscar, chained in his backyard in the cold, and he
Domesticated. Yep.
doesn't know love. Send 1995. Jamal and Earl, they don't know love. Send $19 a month to save the Negro Fund.
Yep. Yeah.
And what is that? That's like adversity is looked at nowadays as the lions are eating up the people. So instead of defending the people against the lions, we go for some fantasy where the lion's supposed to suddenly lose his appetite for meat and
Correct.
everything's going to be all right.
Correct.
Kumbaya, bull. So it doesn't work that way. So we have to get back to understanding from the way we see it
Reality.
is that you're in a safety bubble. It's about to evaporate. We have global warming, the seas are rising, there is a crowd of people on this planet. Sacred cow syndrome stuff is getting in the way of feeding them and coping with them.
No.
Ideas that you can't do this, can't do that. And
Right.
everybody's supposed to operate on a participation ribbon basis. We don't want to hurt anyone's self-esteem. So instead
Correct.
of preparing the children for the real life, competitive, dangerous world, we raised them thinking they're supposed to be soft and entitled and everybody's supposed to protect them.
Yep.
Oh, it's not. And see, you have no right to be safe because you live on the planet Earth. You can get hit and done in by hail, lightning strike,
Tornadoes.
typhoon,
Yep.
tornado, hurricane. You can get done in by tsunami, earthquake. You can get done in by hail, lightning. I might have mentioned those. Meteorites might strike you. You might get drought kills you off because there's no food or your air conditioning broke down because your utility company isn't working because
Mm-hmm.
you let the infrastructure decay. And nobody wants to commit to being a hero anymore. And we don't have any because the sorry behind foes that we have put up for our national leadership don't cut it.
Nope.
And then what we call a hero now. Oh, did anyone see that? There were only 3 seconds left in the game when he hit a 3-pointer and the Lakers win by 1. What a hero. That's not heroic. That's playing a sport and getting paid millions of dollars for doing what a lot of people do for their recreation.
How do we become so out of touch, though, from reality? Is the question, right? That's the thing. It's like, there's a saying that.
Oh, well, yeah, easy enough, because getting out of touch is easy. And you see, what happened in the late 60s was color television was wrecking the motion picture industry. So they got the bright idea of tripling the admission price. You don't get 2 movies and various cartoons. You got 1 movie. You couldn't come in when you wanted to and stay as long as you wanted. You had to come in before it started and leave when it was over. They kept the thing at the movie until they melted for every dime they could have, and they decided to say, oh, well, whoopee, all of these colored folk. Oh, are they Negroes? No, oh, they're black. Oh, Afro-American, yeah. Well, let's go see all this money that they're anxious to spend. We know they're going to spend it because they want to see themselves, so let's get blaxploitation movies. Yeah. And we will glorify dysfunction. So instead of it's the Sidney Poitier and
Color Purple.
No, not fuck Paul. Excuse me. Hell with Color Purple bullshit. Hell no. Harry Belafonte, Sidney Poitier, Woody Strode, that bunch of black actors. Jim Brown came in there. And I'm not talking about Fred the Hammer Williams, because he played some parts he shouldn't have played, including the first poisonous blaxploitation movie, Black Caesar. I won't even get there. Followed up by Rod O'Neal with Superfly.
Okay.
And what they did was, let's go get this black money. And instead of dealing with the hero, to deal with the brother who's trying to do the right thing, let's appeal to the pimps, hoes, drug dealers, burglars, thieves, murderers, etc., the lowest common element, to get all the money we can.
What's the impact of that type of media on the black
community? It glorified dysfunction. So now we ideate stuck on stupid. And you can tell the propaganda works, because not only do you get an illustration of tell a lie long enough, loud enough, you can get anybody to believe it, including the liar. But you start getting the target of the propaganda thinking of himself, herself, in the very terms that the propagandist is trying to get put on you as a negative. The classic one is using the N-word. Now, we always say, yes, friendly. No, it's not, because your subconscious knows what it means. And every time you call yourself that or your friends, you put a dagger in your own heart. You don't even realize it. And that was dead at the end of the 60s, except in certain context. And it was not good because, let's be candid, the Johnson administration was not evil toward black folk. A lot of black people could not handle what was going on when Johnson did not run. They looked at him as great white daddy in the White House, the benevolent plantation owner. And what happened is, when he said he would not accept the nomination, he would not seek the nomination of his party, and even if nominated, he would reject it. For the interest of the American people, he would not run for re-election. And when Tricky Dick got in, everything fell apart, because all of the black, not all, but too many, was saying, oh my God, we got no great white daddy to help us. Well, hey, depend on yourself. But we got this in, and one of the things he set up that the Nixon administration started perverting was a safety net. And the safety net morphed from, you have babies and you don't know how to support them, and the economic situation is down. Well, instead of using the money to support the babies, you had babies to get money for yourself. And then there was this whole thing of the welfare worker cutting off the check, because woman with 3 or 4 or 5 baby daddies, and
Right.
came 1 or 2 tried to play daddy for real, and the social worker would cut the check off. And a half century ago, when I first started practicing law, that was the #1 case.
Mm.
So it got worse from there, and especially the use of that N word in certain circles wasn't pretty. And I get on clients and see, I was the public defender, and a lot of my white employees were scared to go out in the hood. So I'd relocated to Memphis from Los Angeles, and I went out there to see what it was about. And I said, "Oh, you don't need to do this." And then, see, it was really funny because years later, I said, doesn't the court know you? Yes, Your Honor, you do. I said, explain. Well, Your Honor, you as the public defender, and you come out and represent us, and you come out to the house, and you told me this was going to happen. This isn't your son, is it? This isn't your grandson. This is your great-grandson?
Wow.
Well, Your Honor, he been a good boy. Ma'am, how's he going to be a good boy? He's only 19 and he's got 37 felonies. It's been a major crime wave. And what about your granddaughter whose child this is? And your daughter who is the grandmother of this child? By the way, how old is your daughter? Well, she's 42, Your Honor. So what
Right.
in the world am I looking at?
Dysfunction.
What is this?
Has things gotten worse in Memphis since you started there, kind of over time?
It
Or
got better, and then
yeah.
it got worse because black opportunity opened up, but too many crooks
Mm.
used the chance to get in positions to steal.
Yeah.
We had somebody was over a government loan agency. His brother got him the appointment, and allegations, except some of my clients told me about it. This has been in the late 80s. Did you get that loan? Yeah, I got the loan, Lloyd Brown, but I'm having problems. Well, what happened? I got it, but I had to take out a loan for twice and get half of it back to dude so I could get the loan, and I can't make that note.
Right.
See, that kind of thing. Or, Joe, man, it's our turn to get the gravy. It's not our turn to steal from the people. Now, we had a problem recently with 5 cops getting indicted for supposedly Tyree Nichols.
Yes.
Well, the farcical thing is watching Kamala Imhoff / Harris come, Al Chicken Eating Sharpton come, Ben Crump coming, and everybody's trying to feast off the dead flesh. And what we have is a situation where this family is hollering about their dead baby, but allegation wise, they put the boy up for adoption, and a white couple in LA adopted him, who sent him back to Memphis to get in touch with his biological family. Perhaps what happens is he was dating somebody on the job who was the baby mama for one of the cops. And there was a little animosity there. And then maybe another woman who was the wife of a cop, allegedly, started dealing with him too. And the two of them were having fun, tried to tell the third cop's wife.
Yikes.
And she told her husband, who told his homies, and this had nothing to do with line of duty. This was visit didn't go well the first time, so let's go find him and teach him a lesson. And if he hadn't had Crohn's disease, allegedly, he would have lived and nothing would have happened. But this wasn't police work.